Good morning. My name is Joe O'Hara. Today is the 30th of March, 2024, and this is assignment 3 for FTE 217. The AR or modern sporting rifles build. We're building the AR-15. This week's assignment, we're talking about critical dimensions and things of measurement on our firearms and how they associate on the firearm. So we were instructed to take 3 components and talk about how their dimensions are critical to the firearm. One of the components was the bolt carrier group that I chose. Here it is, removed from the firearm. This is a critical component because, well, the main part is the bolt. So this locking bolt right here, when that round is fitted inside, it can so if the dimensions aren't right inside that, then your round is, or the bullet, the casing's not going to fit properly in there, and it's not going to be held right. If this is worn out, like your extractor could get worn, stuff like that, it's not going to hold it properly, and it'll be loose, causing you not have a good grip when it goes into battery. Along with that, as you can see, when this bolt head is in the back position, if it's too loose, you're not going to get a good grip in there, and it's not going to seat that round fully into the to the chamber, and that can cause a lot of problems with the firearm shooting. You're not going to you might get some misfires. It's not going to chamber properly, stuff like that. One of the other choices that I used was the barrel itself, and the main reason is because it's hard to see, but down inside you have the grooves, the teeth, for your bolt to line up on. And if those, as you use your firearm, those teeth can get worn down, and it's not going to cause your bolt to actually line up properly and lock into place, because things are worn out and stuff like that. Major problem with that is probably usually just wear and tear on the system. Not mechanical items work until they break, so over time they are going to break. But then also improper lubrication. People don't lube up certain moving parts like they should. But inside that barrel, inside within that chamber area, if those teeth get worn down over time, then you're not going to have a good seal with your bolt, causing that round to fit in there properly, and then to hold the gas to actually help operate your firearm as well. These measurements, you can take a digital tool or even an analog tool and measure the inside and outside of both your barrel and your bolt to make sure that they are within limits. There are different websites. It's hard to find some of them to access the limits that they can be within. Each one will have a different limit. The other component, which is part of the barrel, but your gas block and tube. And the reason why I chose your gas block and tube, because I've read that gives the some of the most problems when people are troubleshooting their AR systems of things that can go bad. And here, if you look on the bolt system, that's the where your gas tube actually feeds into to cause your bolt to extract and start to cycle over again after it shoots. But if that tube is too small, then it'll fit in there, but you're not going to have a good seal. The other thing, if it's too big, it's not going to fit in there. Also, where it connects to the barrel, if you can look in there through the handguard, you can see the block. Where that block connects at, if that gets clogged, because there's usually there's a small gas hole in the barrel and connects to your gas block. If those get clogged, or the tubing or the kind of get worn out, or they're not within limits, they're not drilled properly when the manufacturer cuts them, then yes, it'll cause problems as well. All my references came from the lecture this week and the AR-15 build guide that SDI had sent. Some of the other, how we can prevent this, potential malfunctions. Talked about the potential malfunctions. Damage is likely, if any, on these components, and why. Improper cleaning, bad lubrication. They don't lube things up. They don't use the right lube. That could be another thing. If they need to use a certain type of grease in some areas, and then just basic gun oil in others, make sure you're following the directions. And grease or oil cannot substitute for grease. If you got to use grease, use grease. If you got to use the oil, use the oil. But if it calls for that grease, make sure you're utilizing that grease, because that's actually really going to help a lot of those moving parts move smoother. And make sure you don't get grease in areas that you don't need it, like down your gas tube and on your gas block, because if you get a clump of grease in there, it's just going to clog that area and it's not going to operate it right. And then training, the best training I could say is SDI, they always have really good training, but then also ask around, find yourself a mentor, somebody that's done this for several years, and if they can help you gather the training and the help your knowledge base. And then additional components, interact with those you selected that were, what are their critical dimensions. Some of the other ones, like your pull rod, your charging handle, this has specific dimensions, especially right there if you see those two little bumps. If that's worn down, it's not going to fit properly. It's not going to pull your bolt, like it should, stuff like that. So make sure you're checking everything along with it, to make sure your system's operating properly whenever you put it back together. That's it for this week, and we'll see you next.